And so it is an honor, truly, to have me with you now and for all of the videos that you have been with me for thus far. So, I hope you're having a great day, or night, morning, evening, whatever it is for you. For me, as you can see, it is daytime. It is about 2:15 p.m. It is 2:15 p.m., 2:15 p.m., and it's Friday, and I don't have work today, so I figured, why not make a video, right? So that's what we're gonna do. And I want this video to be a little bit of a check-in for us, because I feel like it's been a little while since we really got real with one another, if that makes sense. And so I think this will serve partly as like a little life update, kind of, but I also just want to chat about some things that have been weighing heavily on my mind in recent weeks that I just haven't really talked about. And it's nothing too heavy, but still important, and this feels like a good time to sort of have a little check-in chat with you. If that's okay, if that works for you, then that's what I would love to do. And I'm just gonna get right into it, because I can talk, and who knows how long I'll be talking for. So I have a list of like 5 or so things that I kind of wanted to cover for this, just in case I happened to forgot and then would go back and be like, I wish I said that thing. But the first thing I want to touch on, and let me back up. For those who don't know, if this is your first time to this channel, well, hello, welcome, thank you for joining. For those who don't know, I live in the state of Vermont. I have been here for 2 years now. Maybe a little over 2 years. And before I lived here in Vermont, I lived in Brooklyn, New York. That's just a little bit about me. But something you may or may not know about the state of Vermont is that we have dealt with some pretty significant flooding over the past year. And so, rewind to last summer. The state suffered from a really bad flood episode, and many towns in the state were affected. In fact, more towns than not were affected deeply by the flooding, and that includes my town. And the timing of it was sort of wild, because I was injured at that point, and I had surgery like 2 days after last year's flood hit. And so I couldn't do anything to go out and help, or I don't know, just like provide support in any way that extended beyond laying on my couch, you know. So that was really tough. And again, it was a really bad flood, like devastated businesses and homes and communities. And I was incredibly lucky because I live on a hill. And I mean, Vermont is very mountainous, and it kind of like, you know what I mean? There's high parts, there's low parts, what have you. And I just happen to be lucky in that I am not located in a flood zone. Many towns in particular are, but that doesn't mean that everybody in that town is in a flood zone. So I got really lucky, and that nothing happened to my home. And something that happened recently on the exact same day 1 year prior is that we dealt with another flood. So this was just a few weeks ago. And while it was not quite as devastating as last year's flood, it was still bad enough, right? Like, flooding is never good. And it's odd because this type of weather is really rare for Vermont. It's becoming more common, but before before last year, the last flood of this size was well over 100 years ago. So now we've had 2 over the course of the past year, and it was literally the 1-year anniversary of last year's flood that we dealt with another flood. Again, not quite as high caliber, but still devastating, and we're still dealing with the impacts of that today. Because at this point, like I said, it's been a few weeks. So just to share a little bit about what happened, I was working an event that wasn't even near my home. If you know that I do a lot of community events around the state. So sometimes they're fairly local to me, but other times they're like way the hell out there, And so this one wasn't near my home, and when I left my house, it was sunny. It didn't even look like it was going to rain. Like, I didn't have much concern about poor weather. And I don't know, like, hindsight is 20/20, obviously. I can go back now, like, knowing what I know, and say, oh, I shouldn't have went to that event, but it looked perfectly fine when I left. So anyway, we get to the event. The event starts to happen, and it's looking bad outside. We're seeing thunder and lightning and a lot of rain. Like, a lot of rain. The event ends, and I pack everything up and get ready to go. And it's like downpouring at this point. And I start to get alerts on my phone that there's like a flood warning. Or maybe it wasn't a warning. Like, is it a warning at that point? I think so. I think there's a watch, there's a warning. I don't know. There's like different calibers for that too, but I kept getting notices on my phone saying like, stay indoors, don't leave your home, don't travel if you don't have to. And I was like, well, this sucks because I have to get home. And of course I was nowhere near home at this point, so, and I was like, okay, let me play it safe, right? Like, I'm gonna go extremely slow, and if I get to a point where I can't keep going, then I'll have to figure it out. Like, I'll have to find a place to stay, and that it is what it is. Like, I'm not going to risk my life to get home. And again, it's like you don't know exactly what it's gonna look like until you're kind of in it, but like, I wanted to play it safe for sure. So I start driving, and the rain is so annoying. It's like downpouring. And I'm starting to see absolutely that water is pooling up in certain areas, because again, it's very hilly. So as I'm driving and going up and down, I'm seeing where water is starting to pool, and it's happening pretty quickly. So that was kind of frightening, but again, it was nothing too serious. And then I come up to an area that is surrounded by water, because Vermont also has like a lot of lakes, rivers, ponds, bodies of water. Like, we're a landlocked state, but we do have a lot of water still in the state. So I come up to an area that has a lot of water, and it was the first time I saw that the road was like totally covered with water, and it was moving quickly. And so that immediately freaked me out, and I pulled over and tried to determine what I was going to do. I wasn't that far into my trip at that point, and I was already just kind of feeling like, this is not good, But the thing is, like, it was starting to get dark. It wasn't yet, but it was starting to, and so I couldn't tell if the water was deep or not. Like, for all I knew, it could be like, this much water. And I have a fairly heavy SUV hybrid, so most times my vehicle is going to be fine in any kind of terrain. But again, like, I couldn't tell how deep it was. If it's too deep, then I'm going to end up in a lake, you know what I mean? So I pulled over. I took some time to think and sort of assess what was happening, and I waited for other cars to see what they did. And I decided that if neighbors that were going through and not having an issue, then I would keep going. And that's what happened. I was like, if your vehicle is bigger than mine, I'm not counting that. Like, if you're smaller than me and you're not having any issue, then I should be totally fine. So that's what I did, and I did that every time I came up to an issue. There was one that definitely had me nervous, that got me closer to my house. But I did the same thing. I waited and decided that I was going to be fine, and I was. So really lucky about that. And the thing is too, like, it may sound so silly, like you might just be thinking, well, why wouldn't you just pull over and stay and like not even risk it, period? But the thing about that is the flooding at that point had just started, and it was only going to get worse as the evening went on. Like, this flood warning was going until the next day, and I was worried that I would get like stuck and not be able to get home, because what ended up happening is that there were parts of road that completely washed out, meaning they were not accessible, meaning that if you ended up on the wrong side and you needed to get through, you couldn't. Something about Vermont is that depending on where you are, there are very few routes to get you to where you need to go, because it's by and large a very rural state, and so something that shouldn't necessarily take you a long time to get to might take you a really long time, because there's only one or two roads that will get you there. So if you lose a road, that's a big deal. You can't just go and find a quick detour. If you're able to find an alternative route, it's likely going to take you an extra like 2 or so hours, like maybe more. You have to navigate around the entire state in certain cases if that happens. So I was getting really nervous that it was going to get worse and I would get trapped in a place that was going to make me like truly stuck. And of course, I had nothing on me. Like, I was not prepared, right? So I didn't have like food or water or change of clothes or literally anything that would have been useful during that time. Oh, and not to mention, a lot of parts of this trip had no service, because again, you're going through mountains and hills and you're surrounded by water, and so the rural state, you're not always going to have service. It comes in and out. And so my fear was also getting stuck in a place where I didn't have access to communication with anybody. And it's not like there's hotels abound in the state either, because again, rural state. You're lucky if you can find some place to stay that's on your route, no less. So anyway, for all of those reasons, I felt like it was really important that I try to get home. And so I think there were maybe 4 or 5 kind of dicey areas of my trip that I pulled over and I waited and I assessed and I made the best decision I could. And to be clear, there were some people who just flew right through all caution to the wind, you know, so I could have been being like a little bit of a baby about it, but I'd rather that than get swept away and end up in a lake. And there was a good stretch of my trip where the road was right along a river, which beautiful, that's beautiful, but very early on, that river was level to the road. Like, you could see the top of the river, and it was slowly starting to seep into the road. And so, as you might imagine, there was a ton of damage when all was said and done, because again, those roads became inaccessible for a good stretch of time. You can't just completely repair all of the roads that were damaged overnight. Like, Vermont's really good about maintenance and road work because we deal with a lot of elements, particularly snow. Like, historically, we've had very hard winters here. That's much less the case now. Like, trends are showing us that our winters are not as cold as they used to be, but still, Vermonters are resilient and we have great systems in place to help. But still, like, when an entire state is dealing with various types of damages, like, it's going to take some time. That's just what it is. So anyway, I'm feeling good because at this point in the trip, I'm getting close to my home. I'm like a few towns over to my home. And so I'm feeling a little less nervous. And at this point, there are two routes that I can take. Kind of like a back road to get to my home, or I can stay on the main path where there's going to be more cars and vehicles and people and whatnot. And I just had a gut feeling that I needed to follow the route that I don't normally take. I usually will take the back road. It's faster and there's less cars, right? But I had a weird feeling and I thought, let me stay where there's people and things in case I need help. So that's what I did, and I'm driving, and I'm reaching like the border to my town. And I see that the road is closed. And it's closed like pretty far from where I need to go. Like, my town is not huge, but it was a large strip of road that had been already shut down. So my immediate assumption was, oh God, this is not good. This is like reminding me of last year. And so there are lots of neighborhoods and smaller back roads in my area. And I don't know them super well, but I was like, well, I have to try to find a workaround to see if these roads will connect to mine. And I didn't know if it was possible, but I was like, well, I have literally no other option, or I'm stuck here. Because it was too far to walk. It was, a few miles. I didn't want to walk in a flood, so I start driving, and I keep making a bunch of wrong turns in terms of thinking that I'm going to pull out and be able to access the main road to get to my home. And every time I pulled down to try to do that, I was stopped by floodwaters, like really, really scary floodwaters. Like, they looked like rapids. And every time I pulled down one of those streets, I saw tons of cars that had been moved up the road. I saw people standing outside watching as their homes were being damaged in real time, just standing outside wondering, what the hell do we do? Because what do you do? Those streets had been evacuated earlier, I guess, and we were just watching it happen, and I wasn't the only car trying to figure out where to go, so there was a total backup, and then people trying to turn around, make U-turns in really tight areas because it was literally floodwater. High floodwater. And so I did that about 3 times, where I thought I had gone far enough and was high enough where I could avoid that, and I couldn't. Finally, I made it towards another back road where I could access my street in a different way. And literally the street that I needed to take was the last street before another road closure. So if I did not have the ability to make it that way, I was not getting home. And I felt so bad. Everybody was very stressed out who knew this was happening. Like, my roommate was freaking out. My grandma and my mom found out because it's a whole other thing, but my grandma was calling me about an air conditioner, and I was like, hey, I gotta go. I'm like kind of like stuck in a flood, and I didn't freak her out. Like, my intention was not to freak her out. I was just like, hey, yeah, no worries, I'm good. I'm just trying to find like the right way to get home because like roads are closed or whatever, but like I'm staying elevated, like whatever. It's just my service is spotty and I have to kind of pay attention. Like, I wasn't trying to be an alarmist, but she took that and she called my mom and this whole thing. So I didn't mean to make a is like, what are you doing up there? Like, what's happening? Like, where the hell are you? And I'm like, I don't really know. I'm just trying to find a way to get home. So anyway, I made it home safely without a scratch. My car is, she's tough. Okay, she's tough. She's not a Ford, but she's Ford tough, you know. I feel so bad for that car. We've been through some rough terrain together, like truly. So anyway, the rain continued on for the entire night, and then when we woke up the next day, we learned about the devastation. And so our downtown was not as badly damaged, like I said, as it was before. And most of the businesses were totally fine. Last year, every business was devastated. Like, you could take a boat, you could take a kayak out and just row down the street. Like, the water was that high, and it infiltrated so many buildings. It washed away relatively quickly, so the next morning it was mostly like dirt, mud, muck, dust. It was gross, but again, like, the water receded much quicker than it had before. Of course, it's easy for me to say that the devastation was not as bad because I am not one of the people who suffered both times, right? So there were a handful of streets that were devastated, and they were the same streets that were devastated the last time as well. The difference this time is that I was able to go out and help because I wasn't injured and waiting for surgery. So, the first day I was able to, I walked down into my downtown and asked what people needed, and what was helpful on that day was to go canvassing, which, if you're not familiar with the term canvassing, it means like door knocking on people's doors for one reason or another, and in this case it was to check on community members, to mark down what they needed, or what they needed help with, and to provide resources to let them know what is available to them at this time. And so a lot of it was, you know, if you need food, water, shelter, what else? Showers. I don't know if I said that. Yeah, showers. If you need help with the cleanup, if you need to report damage for insurance purposes, like all of this information, right? It was my job to go and talk to a handful of people about this and to mark down what kind of support they needed, just so it could get back to like these groups faster and we could like deploy volunteer groups. And walking through that mud was insane. Like, it's just so dangerous. There was mud going up to my shins, and that was wild. I should have worn a mask that day. I didn't think I was going to be out walking around for so long, and I totally underestimated the amount of dust that was just constantly in the air. And I ended up getting a really bad sinus infection a few days later, and I had to like take a sick day. It was so stupid because I shouldn't have done that. Like, that could have been easily avoidable, but I wasn't thinking. I was just like, how do I help, you know? So anyway, I went and started talking to people, and when I got home, I just felt like a shell of a human being. It was so sad. It was so sad to talk to these people and to hear that they had suffered not once but twice on literally the year anniversary of the last flood. It was just really hard. And there's only so much I can do, right? Like, I'm doing what I can do, but I mean, these people are going to have to spend, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for repairs. Like, there's only so much financial support that they can get, and they knew that from what happened last time, and it's just like the exhaustion on their faces, and like, I don't know, the dissociation almost. It was just like really sad. It was really sad. And at that time we were like on a boil water notice, and So it's like these people didn't have access to clean water. They had damages in their homes, outside their homes too. Their basements were destroyed. Just like, it's too much. Like, it's so much. So that was the first day of canvassing that I did, and then a few days later I went with 2 other friends to check in and to see how like progress was, and again, like what supplies were needed, and basically what else can we do, what else do you need from us, basically, and just checking in. And so that day was a lot more hopeful because a lot of progress had been made in just like 2 days, 2 or 3 days. So I was really happy about that. Like, everyone here is so resilient, you know what I mean? And even one of the houses we checked in on, she's like, oh yeah, I'm good, but by the way, like, I have some donations, like some clothing, clean clothing from before this happened that I really want to donate to, you know, so-and-so organization, but I can't get there. Are you able to drop it off? And we were like, yeah, of course. So like, even when these people are dealing with like such tragedy, they're still thinking of others. It's like a really special community here. Like a total mix of different types of identities, and yeah, just a really strong sense of community. So that felt uplifting after the other day, which felt like truly devastating. And so yeah, that weighed on me for quite some time, and things are better now. Like, I think pretty much we're in a good place, and we just don't know if it's gonna happen again, when it's gonna happen again. We're starting to get tornado warnings, which has never happened in Vermont, or if it has, like extremely rare. Like, I've never heard it. My grandma's never heard it. So yeah, anyway, the weather in Vermont, it's been pretty weird. It's been pretty weird, but I do find comfort in the fact that Vermont is a very resilient state and will continue to be, and so whatever happens, we're gonna just do our best to work through it and figure it out. So, but as I mentioned a little while ago, and my goodness, I can't believe I've already been talking for so long about one topic, but as I mentioned a little while ago, this 1-year anniversary for the flood is also the 1-year anniversary of my knee surgery. And so I've just been thinking about that, how 1 year later I'm so grateful to be able to do the things that I could not do for so long. It's really interesting though, because I definitely see my knees as cousins rather than like siblings. They're very different now. They look different. They feel different. It's interesting, and there are still things that I struggle with, and I don't know, maybe struggle is too big a word for this, but like, I still have pain when I walk down a flight of stairs, for instance. Like, that kind of bums me out. There are certain things that remain like a little more difficult or challenging in nature that weren't before. So I think I'm in a place where I need to just accept that things might forever feel a little bit different, even if I don't want them to, Like, at the end of the day, it's better, it's stronger, it's healthier, and like, it's just a part of the aging process and the healing process, and things might just always be a little bit different moving forward, but there's nothing I can do about that other than just trying my best to keep strong and healthy and all that good stuff with both of my knees. Because again, now they are just very different. One is like reformed and better, and one is, well, like the other one was before the surgery. So been trying to go to the gym machines and things because I want to set myself up for success as best as I can. And so yeah, I've just been thinking about that too, and how wild that whole journey was as well. Okay, so something completely different that I want to raise because I have been seeing some really, in my opinion, dangerous rhetoric about this. I'm taking a deep breath. Before I say anything, I need you to know that this is not going to turn into like a negative conversation. It's not going to get too specific about any certain thing. When I bring this up, it's going to be what my organization would refer to as 501c3 friendly. 501c3 friendly. Now for me, I work at a nonprofit, and so 501c3 is a type of label that describes the work that's being done within a nonprofit, right? And so 501c3, there's a lot of ways to describe it, but I'm going to just say that I use it to describe like education and outreach types of work. Now 501c4, not 3 but 4, that gets more into specifics regarding like campaigns, elections, particular people, lobbying efforts, what have you. I'm not touching that, okay? We're staying away from that. I'm gonna be in my little 501c3 camp. We're gonna talk about education and outreach, and something that I've been seeing that is like truly bothering me. So as you know, if you live in the United States, or I mean, even if you don't, you still probably know that for us it's, it's a big election year. Every election year is a big election year. And I've been seeing a lot of information swirling around about how voting is pointless, it's useless, it's a waste of time, and kind of like making others feel less than if they go out and choose to vote. I'm not here to get into the complexities, the nuance of voting in a federal national election. That's not what this is about. What I want to talk about specifically, that I'm not hearing enough about, is voting down ballot. Voting down ballot. Voting down ballot. Voting down ballot. And so if you don't know what that means, voting down ballot is your smaller races, your local elections, your city council members, your school board, your school budget, important issues that happen locally in your community. That is voting down ballot. So you have like your major election stuff, like voting for president, right? That's what a lot of people think of when we talk about voting. But I'm not seeing a lot of discussion about voting down ballot. And I think it's extremely important that I just put my tiny little 2 cents in about that. And I think this is extremely important for 2 reasons, okay? One, it revolves around a lot of the work that I do and will be doing this fall, right? Voter education, registering people to vote, talking about down ballot local elections, okay? 2, I live in a community where I have seen the direct impact of showing out to these smaller local elections and supporting local races, and supporting local issues as well, right? It's not just about voting for a person, it's about voting for school budgets, property tax budgets, what things are going to come in or go out of your community. I mean, like, it's totally dependent on where you live and what issues you're facing, but deeply important, okay? So when I see things that broad broad strokes are saying like voting's not important, it's meaningless, like you're crazy if you vote. Again, I'm not here to get into like the whole like national political space, because what I work on is it's hyper local. That's my work. And so that's what I want to talk about. Because what happens in your community is something that will impact you every single day. Every single day. That may or may not be true when we think about national politics, right? Depends. But what happens in your town, in your city, in your community will certainly affect you. And I live in a place where multiple times I have seen races come extremely close. Like, I'm talking a small handful of votes. There was a city council race that took place not too long ago, actually, that came within 7 votes. 7 votes. So I cannot sit here and tell you that voting in your local elections doesn't matter. It matters a lot. It matters a lot. And there's more you can do than just voting in your local elections. You can support these community efforts, right? And maybe you are really attached to a particular candidate or issue. That's great. There's ways you can get involved. But again, if you want to keep it totally 501c3 friendly, which is what I do in my work, you can tell people when the votes are happening, when the elections are. You can tell people about the location, the time. In some cases, there might be multiple polling locations depending on how big your town or city is, right? People don't always have that information, right? You need to educate a lot of the time on this. It's important that people know who the candidates are or what the issues are, whether you're endorsing any of that or not, right? Like, just broad strokes, here's what's happening in your community that we think you should know about. You can also talk about how absentee voting works, write-in ballots work. It's going to vary by state and oftentimes by town. But again, sharing information about how to register, how to get to your polling place, how to make all of these resources accessible for everyone in your community is really, really, really important. So many times people don't even know that there is an election happening, and for people who are deeply involved with that, that might seem crazy because it might be something you're hearing about all the time. But we don't do far enough when it comes to voter education, or voter registration for that matter, to go out and have the forms available or to send them to the link where they can register like in 2 seconds, right? Sometimes people just need that. Yeah, so I think that what happens in your community affects you, and it's really great to get out and to provide support to others who may need that additional education, information. And again, like I said, like, you can't endorse a person, you can endorse an issue, you can get involved with campaign work, you can volunteer, you can do honkin' waves, and you can do lots of really useful engagement and outreach work in your community, because at the end of the day, building community is always going to be important. So anyways, I just always think that community building and community support will be important no matter what happens, right? And so I don't mean to get up on my soapbox or anything like that, but again, because I focus on this a lot, and in particular, I'll be doing that this fall, focusing on engagement and education for local elections. I just think it's important to provide people with information, right? And then they can decide what to do with it. Voting is up to you. It's your choice. You know, like, what you do is totally up to you. But I think it's important that everybody has equal access to resources, to information, and an accessible way to go out and vote if they want to, right? So with that said, if you need help with any of that, if you have questions about any of that, about how to get decision and choice about what I'm going to do, what I want to do. So that's how I see it. So I'm going to leave it there. Again, we're not touching anything else with the 10-foot pole. Just the stuff that I do and work on. And because again, I've just been hearing some what I think of as dangerous rhetoric. I don't want anyone to feel like they don't have power or the ability to get involved, at least in some way. And maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, if in your particular situation or your city or town, like you feel limited in that, but just wanted to share my 2 cents on that. So anyway, we're going to move on to something completely different. And this is relating to weekend plans and the struggles I've been having with deciding what to do on this. And I think I've made a decision. I do think I've made a decision, but for some reason, that's been weighing on me too and feeling difficult. So, I have, in theory, a relatively large family, though I'm only close to a small handful of them. And so, there is a family reunion happening, not too far from me. But, let me just back up and say that these people in particular are primarily not my family. So, I have a relative who is not my blood relative, per se. And so it's all of her relatives that I don't know. I don't know them from a hole in the wall, and there's 100 of them. No joke. It's crazy. But because she, is married into my family, and we have a connection, and then I have connections with some other people. It's kind of messy and muddled, but basically this family reunion is going to consist of 95% people that I don't know, have never seen, know nothing about, and 5% of the people who I know of. 2 of those people, 3, maybe 4, are people that I see semi-often, semi-regularly. And so there has been a lot of pressure put on me to attend this particular event, and I'm struggling with it because I feel rather uncomfortable in those types of social situations where I literally don't know anybody, and it's not necessarily fun for me to go out and make 100 friends, I can do it, but it's work for me. It doesn't come naturally to me, and it is emotionally draining. I don't like feeling like I'm out of my comfort zone in that way, socially, because I am not a full-fledged extrovert in any way. I definitely lean more towards introversion. I'd say a mix of the 2, but that's not the type of environment that sounds like fun to me or makes me feel comfortable. So there's that, and then there are some people who are directly in my family line that I know a little bit, but they live extremely far away, and I can count on one hand the number of times I've seen these people since I was born. I know very little of them, and in some ways that makes me even more uncomfortable because I just feel like there's this weird inherent pressure to be a certain thing. I've always felt like a bit of a outlier with that particular group because they all live near each other and they're close, and then there's me. And it just doesn't feel like they're necessarily my family. And there are some older people that come from the notion of family is blood, blood is family, doesn't matter those two schools of thought don't jive in this family dynamic. And so I've been struggling with that, and ultimately, like, I feel like it's good for me to set a boundary and maybe not go, because I can't imagine it's going to be a pleasant time, and because they live so far away, me talking to them for 10-20 minutes surrounded by hundreds of people I don't know, that's not going to build a relationship. And if a relationship hasn't been built in the last 30 years, I don't think it's going to be. And it's no shade to them, but I think we've kind of made our choices and our peace with that, and so it just feels inauthentic. It doesn't feel real, and I have a really hard time with that, like a really hard time with that. And I hate to say it, but I don't really see the value in it. I just really don't see the value in it, and it's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. So, yeah, I don't know. I am receiving lots of pressure, like I said, from people who are older than me in my family, who feel very differently about this than I do. But, I think for once, I might need to just set my own boundary and protect my peace, because normally I don't. Normally I feel guilty and like I need to go and do what's gonna make other people happy, but it's at my expense of feeling like really uncomfortable and like it wasn't a good use of my time, frankly, when there's like a lot going on that I would prefer to prioritize. So I don't know if anybody can relate or has like a family dynamic like that. And maybe if I was more extroverted and more open to the whole situation, it would be different. But I've been in those situations before with this particular group, and it doesn't make me feel good. And in fact, I feel like I'm kind of under a microscope and being judged. They're just very different from me, which is not a bad thing. But again, it makes me feel like the odd one out. Sorry about that. The sun has been pouring in from this window, and it's making my camera overheat, so I had to just give it a little moment to calm down, to cool down, come back to life. But it's okay, because honestly, that's all I wanted to say on that particular topic anyway. I just feel like there has been a lot going on. It's been feeling a little bit overwhelming, and I just don't know if I have it in me to do something that is so energy intensive on me. You know what I mean? So that's a little bit tough. It's hard when you want to just make everybody happy, but you can't. So maybe I can figure something else out, but I just don't think that's the move for me. But anyway, this is a lot of, I don't know, intensity. It's a little bit less light than what my normal content is. So I want to end on some positive notes in terms of things that have been bringing me joy. And the first thing I want to talk about is Big Brother. Now, I don't usually watch a lot of TV, let alone reality TV, but it's been incredibly useful for me to kind of just like shut off and have something that's a little bit mind-numbing. You can just chill out, relax. You don't have to think too hard. It's always checking in on the garden. I'm trying to think what else. I have some fun video ideas that I'm going to be filming this weekend / this coming week. And I think, don't hold me to this, but I think I'm going to try to do a role play, like my first ever role play. At least I think it's my first. If I've done one before, it was way back in the day, because I don't remember. And they're not typically my thing because I don't know that it comes as natural to me, but I think I have a vision for it. And so I want to try it out and just see what happens, right? Just see what happens. Maybe it'll be good. Maybe it won't, and I won't post it, but regardless, I'm going to try. But I have some other content ideas as well that, again, I put pen to paper already, and so I just want to do them, right? I might film a little bit more later today, but I'm not entirely sure if that's going to happen. Probably not, but you never know. You never know what the day has in store for you, right? And I think we're coming close to an hour on this video, so I'm trying to see if I can hit an hour. If there's anything else that I'm missing that I could cover in this particular video. I'm sorry if you hear any background noise. It sounds like my roommate is watching a movie or something like that. I don't know. But like, what else can I talk about? What else can I talk about? I need to go shopping this weekend at some point. I need to pick a few things up for the time that I'm going to be away. And I need to get ready for the time that I'm going to be away. I really enjoy having summer Fridays where I have an extra day in my weekend. I wish that was like all year round Fridays, but I'll take what I can get right now, you know. So there's that, and oh, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna reapply some of my lip balm because my lips are starting to feel kind of dry, and I was reminded when I saw it just sitting on my desk. And as always, I would love requests from you in terms of videos that you want to see. I can't promise that I can do every single one of them, or if there's like a particular thing that I don't have or don't have access to, then that's challenging. But I'm always looking for inspiration, and I do my best to fulfill as many requests as I can physically do. Somebody asked me, I think recently, if I make custom videos, and I haven't done that in a really long time. And right now, I don't think I would have the capacity for it. It's not that I wouldn't want to do it, but I don't see a way where I can make that work with my schedule at this point in time. That might change, over time, but right now I think that would be too hard for me to commit to, which is why I try to do my best with requests, because that's like kind of the best thing I can offer at this point, if that makes sense. But so anyway, definitely feel free to let me know, as always. If you've made it this far in the video, I want to say thank you. It was a lot of rambling on my end as usual, but I don't know, I hear that you guys like that, so I hope that's true. And I try not to be annoying about this, but I'll just throw it out there in case you haven't already. It would mean a lot to me if you would subscribe to this channel so we can continue to grow together. I think we're gonna hit 4,000 pretty soon, so that is super exciting to me. And again, I appreciate all of the support that I've had so far. So thank you a million times for that, and thank you if you are new and looking to support this channel. You can also do all that fun stuff like and comment and share and tap that little notification bell. Again, there's no pressure, and I don't like to bring it up a ton, but I feel like I should, do that thing that everybody does to try to help their channel grow. So there you go. this. I hope the thing you're having is great. And please note that I will be back very, very soon with another video. Many videos, actually, because I've got some good ideas, I think, queued up. So please take care. Please enjoy this summer season. Stay cool if you're really hot, or I don't know, maybe you like it really hot and you're thriving, in which case, congrats.